Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Ahmed Khedr. I'm the Digital Transformation at National Bank of Egypt. I've been working in IT systems implementations and digital transformation for banking services. I'm glad to be here today to discuss the transition from traditional securities to more efficient and resilient framework. I'm happy to be here with our distinguished panel. I'm giving the floor to them to introduce themselves.
Are these in a set position? Good morning, everyone. Oh, I think we can just leave them there and share that. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rinske Geerlings. I'm pronouncing it because I'm from in my own country, the Netherlands. I haven't lived here for 25 years, but I'm still pretty Dutch, I think. I'm starting to get more Dutch. Holland is for 70 to 80% underwater level. So I think I grew up with the DNA of managing risk. The first stories from my grandparents were all this one horrible flood that happened in the 1950s. So I think very quickly I was interested in risk management and also to make risk management not scary and to have some fun factor with it and to make the charge go away. When you have a plan, somehow, well, I can't prove this, but I see that people who are prepared typically don't attract all the trouble. The ones that are sitting there going, oh, staring at the headlights, that's where the things start happening. So that's my philosophy in life. The more you prepare, the less you attract the problems. And when it happens, yeah, you can relax a little bit. And with security and resilience as a topic today will be a really interesting spectrum, I think, to talk about. So I'm looking forward as well. Handing over to you.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nabil Aly. I'm the CEO of Shabir Technologies in Canada and another firm, Rinske Group in Brussels. My background very, diversified. I started early age as a geophysics engineer. I was 20 years old. I went to Canada. They accepted my degree, and they wanted to send me to the Northern Territory to study seismic and magnetic activities and that. Minus 60 degree, from 40 degree in Cairo to minus 60 in Canada, I changed career. So I went to information technology. I started as a programmer. I worked digital at the time, one of the biggest company. I worked at the House of Commons in Canada. I was the youngest director to do a transformation in the early 90s. Then I joined Nortel Networks with one of the biggest, if you're familiar with it, innovation company that, what you want the internet to be. And if you see anything we're doing right now, what's this vision of Nortel saying what you want the internet to be. And then after Nortel, I found that cybersecurity is the field to go, because the more we get interactive in the network and that we need it. But I opened the company and I found it was difficult because it was very, very technical. I can read routers log, I can sniff code, and at the end of the day, it's a business you want to resolve. So I invested in School of Business to get Executive Master in Business Administration, and then I look from cybersecurity from the business perspectives, and I'm happy today to share with you my experience with this as well.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shabir. Basically come from the telco background, so I've almost 20 plus years experience working for different telcos in the region. It started for me actually in the aviation industry back in 2001, and followed by joining British Telecom, and somehow we got opportunity to work for different telcos in the region and in the Middle East primarily. On the same side, I worked for almost a decade for different OEMs, so I can understand the mindsets and approach from both sides, for telco as well as the service provider and the box sellers. So what my take is here, actually I'm right now in engagements. We're working with the telco exco levels for the giving services to conversions of operational language into business languages. So it talks about when it comes to the more resilience for the telcos, it's become very more challenging. It says you have to provide a seamless commodity service provider. You can't imagine to have a small interruption, even a latency in the services, knowing the fact that everything is you are the backbone connectivity for the telcos. So where it comes up, we face the challenges in not only for, one for the financial terms, you have more CapEx requirements, your CapEx injection, the technology advancement like the 5G introductions, and now we're talking 5.5G. At the same time, you have to be more resilient from the technical perspective as well as the business perspective. So here it comes up, like we talk about more, as we just compliment to her, that says more strengthening the fundamentals of the risk management to not to go into solvency areas. I mean, that we remain as intact and not touch solvency risk, but it's at the same time how to provide more sophisticated services to the customers and be more competitive in the markets. So I would love to talk about it, and thanks for having me here.
Yes, good morning. My name is Roger Ison-Haug. I am from Norway. And I have a background from the software industry for most of my years, 30 years in cyber information security. Very often on the vendor side. Now I'm the CISO for StormGeo, a part of Alfa Laval. And we produce software that navigates ships, aviation. We monitor every windmills here in the Netherlands and 99% of the rest of the world. So we are depending on a lot of data, never to be down. We cannot have a 1 hour downtime. So my background is with the security part, but I also seen that regardless of how much software we push onto the company and how many processes, we still fail. So I took my doctoral degree in cybersecurity leadership, trying to figure out why we fail. And hopefully we can discuss some of the things that we can see now moving from point solution to resilience, and how we actually have to rethink a little bit what we do to achieve what we want.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. We encourage you to think about your questions, your feedback, your insights, share it with us after we finish. Our question here to the panel. Can we stop threats? Can we stop attacks? Actually, no, the prevention is not secure. So, Mrs. Rinske, can you share your insights here, please?
Sure. Yeah, I think the main challenge, I'm an engineer, and if you're in engineering, you think I can design things and I can prevent certain things and I can make things stronger, so we protect everything from flooding, from fires, from explosions, from whatever it is, from malfunctioning of assets and things like that. And so with cyber risk around the corner, or anything to do with information security, we now, after 10, 15 years in, after the first ransomware attack, which was that in your risk register, we don't even know what the risks are. That's the starting point. That's already uncertain in information security. So whilst we haven't even identified what risks there are, then to try and mitigate them on the likelihood side, reducing likelihood and saying we're going to prevent this, that's now also become really a common kind of conclusion that that's a complete illusion. Yeah, so it's been, in a sense, a big challenge, but a massive opportunity for people who want to think resilient, business continuity, manual workarounds, going back to pen and paper. And I'm saying pen and paper, you might be staring at me going, oh, that's not needed. We've got cloud and all that stuff. My conclusion around cloud is the cloud is just someone else's computer. It's different people who manage it. You might think they're perfect because they're big and they protect themselves. They can invest in their preventative controls, their security and everything, but there's still a bunch of people, and now you don't know what's going on there. CrowdStrike, do I have to say more? That's a human thing. It's not a malicious attack or anything, because we think we're getting our head around that. Oh, there could be bad people, they could be attacking us. But that people can make mistakes, We don't have a bunch of robots working for us, nor for the cloud vendors. And the more you put in the cloud, the less you actually know what their issues are, the less you control it. So some of the opportunities around cloud especially have become real pitfalls as well. People have stopped making those manual workarounds because it's now like, we don't have to. We have, this is another interesting one. We have all our environments now with, AWS, for example, our dev environment, our test environment, our prod environment, our DR environment, that's all managed so well. There's your first risk, all eggs in one basket. Infrastructure risk, but also if you have a compromised account, how do you then access any of these environments, So a lot of the thinking process, I think, has had to change. A lot of senior leadership has absolutely no clue about what these people are talking about. There's a bunch of young people, 20-plus-year-old, they're coming into the boardroom asking for more money for AI-related stuff, for cybersecurity controls. they don't know, the board doesn't know where it's going to end. The C-suite, even middle management, they're struggling understanding what these technical terms are, the acronyms around it. So once again, a challenge, but one solution around it, I think, is reversing again the whole thinking. Yeah, and so resilience is not going back to BCP, recovering things. It's about bouncing forward. A whole different philosophy. And that's what I'm passionate about in that sense. So getting people to think in a different way, and in a tangible way that I've dealt with that, and then I'll hand over. A tangible way I've dealt with that is upward mentoring. We used to ask people from the top to mentor the bottom, right? Like, I get a C-suite person who's my mentor, and then they help me with my career planning and everything. We need to turn this whole thing around and get the board and the C-suite actually comfortable with being in a space with their own young crew who actually know how things work, who know how to operate these phones, and who know what the risks are, and actually, mentor them upward and actually give the C-suite and the upper levels, the comfort level. There are actually people around them who can also coach them, because a lot of the head in the sand kind of behaviors around this, they're not helping. They're not helping anyone, So that's, I think, a few challenges and potential solutions to think differently about this.
The advantage of having C-level with us, Mr. Nabil, can you share with us the cyber resilience challenges?
Yeah. So I'll just take it from the CEO perspectives, and you're absolutely right. One of the challenges that, the communication between the technical team and the CEO, the CEOs or the C-suite will be looking for three things. Number one, for them, return on investment. That's in their mind, the numbers. The second thing they're looking for, what's my operational risk? What are my legal risk? What are my reputational risk? And most of the time it's missing in translation, coming back from a really good risk assessment, is to raise this to executives to get their attention to make the decision. I can give you examples of this, many of them. Just a small one. Very critical data center, critical to the nation. And it keep down all the time. For the investigation for the last 5 years. It's not the technicality, it's the air conditioner is ailing, and it being put in the budget. We need to change the air conditioning every year for 5 years, and never actioned, because it was never explained the importance for this, because for the management and air conditioning, it's cold outside, I can live with it. So this is make the point, is you need to educate and bridge the gap between the technical and the C-suite to get their attention to these things. So for sure, there's executive training. Most of, I think it was 57 of executives do not really understand the information. End of the day, cybersecurity is a governance issue. And the notion that we can say technical solution to resolve the issue is false. Because policies and procedures in place must be there to take decisions. One of the things we do as a red teaming or verbal teaming, we go in and simulate attack, and we got the C-suite there. Right away, call the I-Tech guys. They don't understand their way, they don't understand if there's a communication. So anyway, just to make the conversation a little bit short, there is a need for bridging this gap so they understand. So executive training is, and they get into it, because now the legality, now we can have a cyber security insurance, so it makes the executive think, what are my liabilities here? The other thing I think is really good for executive to understand, and I share this with my executive, it's a new term, I'm not sure if you heard it before, but I like to use it. It's return on investment, it's ROM, return on mitigation. Mitigated now will cost you later. And I think this discussion would be really good to move forward the resiliency and make sure that we have, a proactive defense strategies. They understand the role or responsibilities. And one last thing I want to add is, most of the time, when you have a third-party company coming to do an audit, or even technical people doing an audit, they do not understand or they didn't take the time to talk with the owner of the information. It's the owner of the information are the only responsible for deciding the sensitivity of this information. So most of the time you're talking to the techies, you never got what the injury test, what if scenario, I'm using AI, I'm using this data. If it's exposed, what happened? So first of all, you need to understand your asset valuation and identification, and from there, you can do any security you want, because you're going to be all the time linked to a risk that it will give you the opportunity to have the operational risk, legal risk, and reputational risk, and I assure you, your C-suite will understand. And putting it up there. Thank you.
Well, I totally agree, but I'll just compliment. I'll just give you experience sharing. So I still remember one of the meetings with Exco boards. Gentleman comes up and says, we have X number of risks. And he was, it was not a day for him where he says the CISO was not, Exco was not convinced. He says, every risk is a probability. It may happen, may not happen. So would you believe that, do I need to invest the money to protect? Because at the end of the day, I'm here for my profitability. I'm more concerned about my PLS because that's my KPI. So it comes up like we start from journey from there to happen. Like the issue comes up with the fundamental, like people on the grassroots level and the technical level, they do understand. The gap I just mentioned, like some bridging the gap between technical and folks and the experts. So what we experience, like, okay, they're doing different kind of assessment, as DMM assessment for the time TM forum, for the digital maturity model, or the further stuff. But what we found is, okay, the fundamentals were not there. So how it works, even for the different standard of ISO, it gives you two scenarios, scenario-based and asset-based. So what happens, we start asking a question like, do you have a, I'm sorry, I'm just stretching a little step back, then I'll come back to the, just to connect the dots. So do you have assets registers in place? The answer is most of the time, no. Did you ever heard about anybody like, every company says, we are ISO 55001 certified? Do you come across anybody says we want to be certified as an individual ISO 55001, which is IT assets management? Very, very rare cases. So when you don't have, it doesn't matter that you have the tools in place, which do auto discovery, or don't have the tools in place. But the first thing first, that's your assets. In 27,000, I remember like 27,005 and all those times, says your primary asset and supporting assets. So you have to come up with the repository or registry of the assets. And now let's assume that you have assets now. And you have start talking about controls. Now there's different it depends upon your statement of applicability. It's not only 93 controls of 27,002. It depends upon your flavor of the industry. Let's say your financial, so you can include PCI DSS and other controls as well. It says now you have to identify the controls and start mapping the assets with the controls, preventive, detective, and corrective controls. And here comes up the effectiveness of the controls. It's not about quantity of the controls, quality of the controls. As controls are in place, are really effective or not effective? And then you come to the known vulnerabilities, and then you go for the threats. Now, if you have all this information in place, now, let's say I'm a grassroots level, I know the assets, and the controls map with the assets to protect the assets, and the known threats, known vulnerabilities, then I'm in a better position to do at-risk identifications. What happens in the grassroots level, people, the middle order management, they say, okay, this is a risk policy, this is a risk framework, the process, and this is a risk register, and start raising a risk. And I remember I was working for a Chinese company, and there was a cultural change. People were more reluctant about it. The CEO comes on the forum. He says, if you raise a risk, we'll give you 10 Chinese yuan. And people still reluctant and still start raising and say, give access to everybody. So what happens, within a few months, we evidenced a huge number of risks, and he came again, and after a couple of weeks, he says, congratulations, we got thousands of risks. And I must say that 99.99% were wrong. They were issues. But I'm still happy. We'll continue this benefits for you because you helped me to identify a 0.01% risk which we never thought about. So what happens if your issue comes up when you not equipped with the information to the team on the cross level, and she's expecting to start raising your risk. That comes up. Now, business continuity, I'm not, she's more into it, but I'm not talking about. So business continuity is your RTO and MTT that talks about continuation of technical services. But let's talk about the business resilience. Now, if you have these all risks and you're just not converting these risks in Octave Allegro format to showcase and present to the 60s or Expo levels, you convert the real technical risk into business risk. Mr. CEO, if this just becomes true, as per the EME or Monte Carlos, that's your monetary loss is this much on this percentage and so on, and he's more panic. And then you're in better shape to negotiate. So it's not about negotiation because it's part of the day, it's end of the day, so we are part of the same company. So you are in a value chain from bottom up to helping the experts to achieve the intended goals. Now, same time as the experts are not very much happy with the technical people because you come to MGM support. Support means, in other words, monitoring support, because you need to go for a new technology, because you have to remain in the competitive markets. When I come from the telco background, because it's very challenging when it says you have to highly regulate it and you have to invest a capex on it, and you're not yet in a position that you have recovered your previous equity or the capex, but you have to inject more. At the same time, the technical folks come and says, I need more funds, which was never part of your EOP. So here the question comes up. At the end of the day, you have to balance the equations. So challenges from the business resilience is not only technical resilience, it's also your, financial resilience as well. And end of the day, it's your seamless commodities. So for end customers, regardless of industry you are in, regardless of service you provided, the end customer expecting a seamless commodity services from you. So let me put in a framework. So I agree with the communication gaps, but it's issues on the fundamental levels. So you have not the right information in place, you're not equipped with the right people, with the right set of information. And if it's the case, then it's conversions of the technical language into business language and not going for the subjective risk analysis. If you go a little bit more semi-quantitative risk analysis and it's giving more monetary values that can be, you can do challenge back. So I believe that's the point comes up. Over to you.
Yeah. Thank you. A lot of good points. First, go back to you, Rinske, when you mentioned CrowdStrike. That was a fun morning to be a CISO. It was actually a very fun morning. After throwing up and getting back to work, realizing that was a friendly attack. It was the best thing ever. Because 50% of organizations that are SMB market will not survive 6 months after a ransomware. They're out of business. So to see it's a friendly fire that actually utilized or a victim of the same error that actually hit Bill Gates on stage in 1998. And he was demonstrating plugging in a SCSI drive for a scanner. The exactly same error within Windows. So we have the same legacy errors in our core operating systems in the cloud and on-prem. So the risks are just being added because we are pushing on more. But when it comes to how to handle this risk and the resilient part, I think we first have to understand that IT and the CISO are not always friends. I am the CISO. I have 1 hour every Wednesday. I have a peace hour with IT manager because we are fighting the rest of the week because we have very different angles. I have absolutely no ownership into the tools they are using. I create the policies. I can translate the risk to the board, and then the risk owner says go or no go. So I'm just actually sitting in the middle, trying to do the translation from the tech guys to the business, trying to put some value on it. And as you mentioned, with the risk, to be able to understand the risk, you need to understand the asset. You need to understand how the assets are connected. When you have that overview, then you can actually start doing your risk assessments. Before that, you're just spending time in the blind, wasting money. And when you look at the competency level within the organization, look at S&P 500. Around 8 of those organizations have 1 person in the executive level with a competency within cybersecurity. I did the same check in Norway, and for the top 100 organization, 1. It is Tina, it's the dairy company. They have 1 person responsible for cybersecurity. I check his background, and he's a marketing expert, and now responsible for cyber. So to have that understanding of the competency is extremely important. And when executive thinks that moving to the cloud is a solution, most of the time that is adding more trouble. I tried to explain this to the head in my organization. We are providing navigational software to ships. And these huge Maersk ships, you see, they have around 300 buttons to switch on the bridge. A Linux server, 1,000, 2,000. If you put it into Azure, you maybe have 1 million different settings. And if you're looking at this at the skill level on the IT departments, they maybe get 1 or 2 courses a year, and they have maybe 20, 30 different softwares that should cooperate together. So we're actually starting in a very wrong direction. We have zero competency on the technology on the top, and we have not the most solid competency in the bottom. And if you look, I did a study on the universities in Scandinavia, looking at the students going out of the university within programming, they do not learn anything about security. So if you hire a new programmer to create your software, they're extremely trained in the language and making things function, but not the basics in cryptography or identity handling. So we're actually educating coming problems and putting them into production. So we need to have a little shift in how to assess the risk. The risk is not understanding the unknown, as you mentioned. You cannot predict it, but you need to prepare for it. So we have a little challenge, and I think what we have to do, one of you guys mentioned it with the PKIs, what the top executive is actually paid on is being done. We have now a lot of focus on the environmental thing, and they have people in the board with environmental responsibilities, and they have to report that to the EU. That is being done. You have building a house today, you're doing all this BREEAM certificates, all those things that really do something with the cash. That is being done. Cybersecurity, maybe with this too, but it's going to be personal responsibilities. But I haven't seen maybe 1 or 2 companies in Norway actually on track. And I see the same in many other places. So I think we have a long way to go. And we're saying that we don't know what is coming. 74% of all attacks today are based on known vulnerabilities. So if you can just fix what we know, then we have around 25% left. And then we have a starting point. So the knowledge gap is extremely challenging.
No, thank you. The question here, do you think with the evolution of the new technologies, AI, quantum computers, threats become faster, become more efficient, or cybersecurity will use these technologies to defend against these threats?
No, we are already using it. We have been using AI for 15, 20 years to produce our solutions. The good thing with the AI is you can go through a lot more data in a higher speed. But that doesn't make that you understand it, because if your competence level is not where it should be, you might also accept the answer that is wrong. If you ask some of those AI agents out there questions and get the answer, and you have very limited competence, you might be on the wrong track. So you still need to lift the competence, but you have the correct level of competence, you can actually achieve a lot. I was in The Hague yesterday on this cyber event there, and I demonstrated how we can actually utilize AI with huge data sets and actually find the need you're searching for within split seconds. So it's possible, definitely. And with the quantum computing, of course, it's going to give us more trouble than we want, with the cryptography being broken and stuff like that. So everything is now open again. So what you thought was secret yesterday with quantum computing will now be in public domain. So it will not only give us benefit, it will also add a lot of more trouble. So yeah, it has both sides.
Yeah, sorry, Frank. So we'll put in this question in 2 perspectives, one from the business perspective and second from the end user perspective. So I believe from business point of view, we are much on the safer side. So, you have very stringent rules in place, controls in place, as the penetration testing, DevSecOps kind of pipelines is in place. So you're not putting anything on the production environment if it's not well scrutinized and it's make sure that you meet your minimum security requirements. But from the end user perspective, this emerging SaaS market, so there's lots of new SaaS applications coming up every day. Comes up, that's kind of alarming to all of us, because what happens, these cell phones are as endpoints, and these can easily be compromised. So these SaaS applications, I don't say is there any, Apple, I believe there's more scrutiny processes there because when you upload any new applications on it, it goes through rigorous scrutiny. But I'm not sure about the Android ones, but I'm a producer of my own couple of SaaS application, which is currently operational and up and running. So I'll say, I know as a developer, as an owner of the application of the SaaS, there are lots of vulnerabilities, and you have to keep having a vigilant eye on it, and you keep identification and mitigation. But again, new technologies, if you're referring to IoT, smart homes, that's all alarming. Nobody can claim that's your sensors, which is, there's, to be honest, like this different kind of sensors, it has a link directly proportional to the pricing of the sensors. So as an end user, you look for the very economical solutions, which you are somehow compromising on a security perspective. So that's another perspective. But from the business point of view, trying to stay in context of the subject, that's, I believe, is a much more secure environment. But again, there are people are evident more at the exco level as a decision. They will look for the use cases. That's use of AI to reduce OpEx. That's a struggle. That's keep on going between strategic level and in operation level. So they look for the more use cases which you can implement in the systems, and you can cut down your OpEx. This is a fight that's going on. Just to add on it, last point from me, there's we call it 4 levels of intelligence. Let's say you have start with the manual operations, then automated, autonomous, and intent-driven. Nobody claims that we are intent-driven, but we are something in between autonomous and automated. And there are some use cases across different industries that you falls in between different digital channels with the customers. So there is alarming us when you say I have autonomous use cases or the AI or use cases. That's the point. That is the area we have to focus on. That's what we, that's a scrutiny, and not at the same time look for the beneficiary, and at the same time not to be a kind of what you call victim of the use of the use cases. But that's another topic. So anyway, sorry for interruption in between.
Well, my thinking here is security had to run alongside the fast pace of AI and cloud computing and all that. This is number one. The second thing, if you just take a look at the way we do static, I call it static for lack of a better word, of monitoring and for risk management, and we do it once every 6 months and some incident. We had found through our executive training, for example, you have to have a proactive one. And one of the things is incident management. You're going to be attacked, this is for sure. This is evident. It's how to respond or recover and let the business go in. This is what the attention should be. Another, I'll call it a reality check. So now we do something we call a verbal team activity. Usually we go in with a bunch of hackers, a red team, and we tell them what's the flaws in your network, on your systems, and here's your fix it. And most of the time we're not being liked by the client's security team because we look like auditors. So we try to do it, attack them, because most of the time we found would be like 4 days without being noticed. Sometimes senior management you say, can you just go and we're not going to tell the technical team say how we do. And we're 4 days. And sometimes we bulk a little bit more, and it takes them like another half a day to realize there's something there, and they start to panic and shut down. And this shouldn't be. So we start to get, verbal team, which is exactly educating your executive and your technical team in an exercise for incident response. They have to have you need to have an incident response plan that is viable, that is tested, that they can actually get you to recover. This is what the benefit we get from having this exercise. We simulate it as an attack, and we tell the executive what you do. And then they have lots of lessons learned. And going to the cloud, there's one item, the persistent there. They think going to the cloud, they gonna remove the risk. We always notify them the responsibility to the cloud, but the accountability risk all the time to the C-suite and the owner of the company. Going to the cloud is not gonna relieve you from that. It's just a responsibility. One thing I actually noticed, and just from my notes, AI-driven threats. Like right now, think about it. AI works on data. What's the integrity of this data that AI is using to give you the information? And we usually use the information on confidentiality, integrity, availability. It's very known. Now AI put us on safety, because you can put human safety, and in my opinion, human safety is the most precious thing. You can recover from any system, but human safety in a manufacturer, in a workplace, is very environment, so should be taken into highest consideration, in my opinion. So looking at, AI automated attack, the data. So how about if it's a fictitious data or data is not verified, then you're making a false positive or false negative assessment on people. And you can do your own scenario. If any scenario I'm going to fit, really, absolutely, from passing from an airport to identity to work to everything you can imagine and say. So how can we bridge this gap? I see it as an issue, understanding what kind of set of information that we judge the output, and with no human being interaction to re-look at these outputs and rationalize it, we're going to be in trouble. If you take a look at attacks are the same, they've been getting faster. Imagine brute force attack with AI, very fast. Advanced malware, Rinske has a couple of notes here from me. Social engineering with AI, spear phishing, and there's lots. AI defense, the threats detection. But I think what mitigation, in my opinion, should be goes to proactive analysis, using AI to actually detect anomaly. So you can actually use AI to help in this cybersecurity, and this has to be the work only on this. This is the only way to get the security go faster to the speed of AI to help us at least mitigate some of the issues. Continuous monitoring for sure. As I said, incident response, the plans. You're gonna have the plans, you have to test them, and the collaboration and sharing information. Many people, government, everybody is, we need, as, maybe a body, maybe, like these, sharing information about these kind of threats, and it will help create this, community of understanding the new threats that we are facing, and building cyber resilience culture. Not only the employees, the C-suite, everybody should be aware. Actually, in our company, we had to do AI policy, because people will cut and paste in ChatGPT some emails to client, and I know it's like we have to understand why we're not doing that. We can, use it to a certain way, but we have to know the implications of it as well. Mm-hmm. Back to you.
Yeah. What I'm hearing, especially in the earlier part, is a lot of kind of false sense of security and technical controls. Okay, we've got this AI, we can do monitoring and anomaly detection, all that stuff. But my experience is the more technical controls you try to impose on people, if they actually start having to deal with it. For example, developers, like IT developers, which comes back to your Roger, your comment about the CISO and IT not being friends. No, of course, your IT team are your biggest risk, if you're a CISO, because they've got access to stuff, The whole tendency of developers, for example, to wanting to create new things, which is uncertain, that's risk. The sooner you think you can take a technical control and, for example, reduce their access and their permissions, now you've got a huge people risk. And I've worked in project teams where 5 project team members left because they just felt there was too much control in this place, and they could get a job somewhere else, And where does AI detect that? Where does AI detect the human response, the feeling respected as a developer, as a programmer, and wanting to work in a place or not for that sort of reason? So we've taken a technical control, which we've enforced, but now we've got a huge people issue. And that kind of stuff, making sense to that, and the interrelation between those risks is just too damn scary for most people, because it's too complicated. How do we map that? How do we visualize? Like we did in our training course a few days ago, we're trying to mind map some of these interrelated risks. And if you ignore that and have your faith in your technical controls, that's not gonna cut it. So that's one comment, I think. 2 other things I want to highlight is it's not easy for any of the groups that think doomsday, right? Like we've got ERM people, risk management people, security, physical security, IT people, IT security, information, DR, business continuity people. That's the bunch of people that think stuff can go wrong. Now, most of the people in the rest of the business, especially in your innovation teams, in your marketing teams, your C-suite board, they want to think about strategic objectives. Where is this business going? Positive, endorphins, happy days, you know? They don't want to hear that doomsday stuff. So 2 things around that are, I think, one is really starting top down, and we did this in our training as well in the last few days, where we're starting with, in a group of C-level people, and say, what is one of the strategic objectives of this business? Give them literally a sticky note to write that on the top. So they're happy, right? I thought this was a risk session. No, we're talking about strategic objective, happy days. Then ask them to put 3 bullet points underneath of stuff that can derail that. So what could go in the way of that strategic objective? Now they're starting to get a bit like, this is a bit of annoying, yeah. We don't want that to happen, no. That's why we're here, people, the risk people. We're going to try to reduce all those annoying bullet points. So that should be the starting point. The top down should be about strategic objectives. You should engage them in saying then, what is our opportunity and threat appetite? Who's even done that? Actually quantify in SMART objectives your risk appetite. I'm not talking the copy and paste ones that I can grab from any website about, we have high risk appetite for innovation, low risk appetite for human impact. I can copy and paste that from any business that I see out there making risk appetite statements on there. Am I making sense? Do you guys see this stuff? It doesn't give you anything. SMART objectives are where we can measure then things with it. Hey, are we doing a good job? Are we in the red, the amber, or the green zone? Are we having a little party at the end of the year because we achieved, our risk appetite? We actually made sure we were safe. That kind of stuff is the people factor around it. And that's the damn scary part because it's unpredictable. Technical controls, we can test them, we can monitor them. It's the illusion that we're safe, right? So that's I think, one key thing around involving people from business perspective, starting from the opportunity side. Rather than the threat side. Now, the next thing is then how to, because all those doomsday people have the same problem, right? Like they have to have the courage to walk into that boardroom and come up with these wonderful things and that they don't kick them out within 10 minutes saying, these doomsday people, we don't want them. How do you create that kind of capability? Well, come together, think tank. All the doomsday people together, the DR, the BCP people, all the InfoSec people, the CISO, the DR, the BCP kind of analysts, anybody who sits on that risk side, and come up with ideas on how to translate that message. And the way to do it is really making it efficient, making it interactive, I think, coming up with strategies, because for none of them it's easy. We're doing the final session today, we're doing a ball game on how all that interaction works and why there is such a huge need for people in all those roles to pull together and to think, how do we get that message across? So that's my kind of main angles with this. Technical controls are, an illusion, I think. Yeah.
I'd like to comment on a little bit what you said on the developers. This is actually a little battle between the CISO and the developers. I know I cannot just push the controls on them, but I can provide it. I can explain why. What I did, I tried with a friendly mind, with a smile, trying to convince them you have to do certain things, and they didn't. So we had 500 developers creating new technical issues daily. So instead of pushing it, I just sent the customer on them. Because the customers today, the supply chain risk is so high that before we can win a contract, I as a CISO need to answer a questionnaire, maybe 50, 100 questions. So I said, sending it to the developers. Can you answer what you have done? And then you're starting to actually to show how poor digital hygiene you are delivering, and you're getting embarrassed. You understand that this is not something the CISO would just do for fun. This is winning that contract with Equinor or not, having a job tomorrow or not.
So understanding the business needs, having plans and sharing and having awareness would be in a resilient way. So could you please share your insights, your questions? You have comment? Okay.
Sorry for interruption again. Well, point like SMART objective, just one sentence. That's a phase of the capital noted model. We are very much used to the scorecard systems and cascading, but not really understanding it. Now, I'll give you one practical examples of AI and security resilience. The previous FIFA World Cup, I was part of the team. So we imagined a country, which is a small sized country, and just welcoming a FIFA audience across different worlds. So we imagine the capacity in terms of telco, imagine capacity in terms of the infrastructure of, the hotel industry, tourism industry, and imagine the capacity expansions for the different areas as well. So we neutralized almost more than 1,000 security attacks, which never came on the public media. That how is this happening? There was lots of battle of this technology and CISO and Excos. So the point I'm trying to highlight here, AI in security, with apologies, maybe my experience is very limited, but I'm not seeing much cases, AI use cases when it's security detections. We are still very used to the security norms, let's say, controls from starting from the endpoint security from DLP to SIMS, logs management, and we're relying on the SOC people to vigilantly monitoring the security breaches and anomalies 24/7. But we do have use cases that use convergence of alarms and events into, we call ABD, automatic alarm behavior discovery, and conversion to ADX, that's auto resolution. That's a very nominal percentage. That's represent less than 5% of the auto discovery and conversion into ticketing and resolutions as well. But what I'm trying to highlight here, for security perspective, now, again, everything is interconnected both in each other. So say you, from the grassroots level for technology, you have the operation risks. And that's the true, in a real sense, it's conversions into the more monitoring numbers. And it's all together, which gives you a better picture to the decision makers. That's you can go and take decisions. Then you can connect with the objectives, and because at the end of the day, there's all our potential risks, which are the we call showstoppers towards your intended objectives. And then at the same time, you can also look into for the internal requirements, internal risk as well. That's you don't want to protocols on a your end customer perspective, right? So anyway, that's all I believe will be added values on it.
Thank you. Anyone have any question can share with us?
A question or a solution? It's also good.
Feedback,
I believe solutions, but
Hello. Thank you, panelists. I think I will raise a comment rather than a question, because my question was answered already by Rinske, this been in the last statement that you made. And the comment I wanted to put forward is, I don't know if it's not just myself, but I realize that when dealing with information security, the best CEOs are from the background of engineering. And the worst ones, conversely, are from the background of finance and accounting. And it's so wide in terms of actually seeing the differences in the two, because the engineering background CEOs do understand risks quickly and quicker, and they also propose solutions. Now, the question I want to kind of pose on the back of that, mostly for Nabil, and yes, Nabil, is that when dealing with CEOs who practically always go for one thing, give me the headlines, only the headlines. And once you've given them the headlines, 2 days later, you're expecting a result of an approval or a decline or at least some processing. They come back to you and say, we haven't yet looked at it. Then you wait for the next quarter, they're still looking at the headlines. So why don't I just give you the details so you give me the answers right here and now? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the next question. I tell you, I had spent around 100,000 euro to get an executive MBA, and what out of it, around 20 things in my notes. Maybe 18 of them were learned from my granddad under a tree. Seriously, integrity and all that. But I can highlight a couple of things I learned from that. I'm really serious. Executive don't read them more than page and a half. and I had a course for skim reading. He sent me a document, I would skim read it. I'm not reading line by line. Numbers, an executive don't listen more than 30 minutes. If you don't make a case in 30 minutes, forget it. Numbers talks, visual talks. So you're gonna have to be really blunt. What's in it for them? So you're gonna be really serious. This must be mitigated. The consequences is, and it can have to cover operational, legal, or reputational. Try it, it will work. Because once you go operational, legal, and reputational, it will make it to their SWOT analysis that it goes to the strategy. But if we're saying a verbiage and explaining, I'm sorry, it would happen because you have lots of demand, and then you're going to delegate it somewhere and you're going to get fit. So very, very precisely say what's in it for them. Financial, yes, financial people look at numbers because they don't understand the qualitative analysis. The balance sheet, mass balance sheet, isn't a cent, they're going to have to balance it. So the way looking at it is different. Return on investment. That's why I got the term return on mitigation. Use this term. Return on mitigation is equivalent to return on investment because from security analysis as such in this, and she's very right with the risk appetite. The risk appetite depends on the executive, ability to be a risk taker. For them, they had taught in the School of Business, the higher the risk, the higher the gain. Well, in cybersecurity, the reverse. The higher the risk, it's down. So you need a little bit of education on that. I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
I have one question there. You mentioned what was the worst CEO? If it's the engineer or the CFO, it's actually the guys coming from sales. They are the worst one.
About to say the same thing.
Yeah, because they have had maybe had success in selling and had success as a sales manager. They have maybe no training, no background, but they have success. And if you have success in something, many think that they should be a manager. Maybe should continue to have success, because there are so many CEOs failing because they've been put in a position they are not qualified for. So what I did when I said yes to the CISO job at Storm, I didn't do anything. I created the first policy, sent it to the CEO, and said you can talk when you read it, and accepted it, or we can adjust it. And we did, and we had a change in CEO, and I sent the same to the new one. I said, okay, and he didn't have time for me for 2 months. I said, okay, I'll just wait. He said, what do you mean wait? I will not do anything until you have given me this charter. But that's my hunting license. So, yeah.
Let me make it a little more worse here. So,
More questions, more comments?
I just want to add to your question. I say, let's imagine a CEO from the sales background, the financial background, and thinks more worse when you present boring, more textual, busy slides to him, especially the heat maps. Because, apology there, all of us using heat map because we believe that's that's easy ones to represent, but there are many other pragmatic ways of representing the risk. I'll give you just to talk about CEO, we start presenting instead of heat map, we start bow tie analysis. So on the left side, you have causes of the risk, and then you have preventive barriers, which are currently in place in your organizations. On the right side, you have consequences of the risk and the proposed corrective measures. And it says, if you do your shopping cart, open your shopping cart, tick, 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 what do you want? If you take this costs this much. If you take this control, it costs this much. And if it's not only cost, if you take this one, it costs you this much corrective mitigation controls, and then our value propositions. That is, how do you present we can't control someone who comes from the sales background, financial background, we see you and can't say anything to him or her. But anyway, it's more about if we can change the approach of presenting the risk, and says, this is where you are, your current implemented controls, and that's your consequence. And then you do your shopping cart, select your controls, corrective control. We give you advisory for the recommendations, but you have the one. He says, I'm accepting this based on my appetite. I'm giving you this much funds, and the value propositions. And then tick, tick. If he says, I'm not giving this one, it's above my appetite, okay, accept the risk. And that's that's what we did for one of Chinese chip supply. because they was heavily relying on Intel RSML chips because was the Trump administration put a ban on it. So it was people around the globe who were very much concerned about that continuation of the services, especially return and repair services. And we give the same view to the manager and say, no, this looks wonderful, tight, so I can live with it. So that's a change you visualize. Visualization plays a major role. So things become more worse when you go with the very boring, busy slides, bullet points. And I apologize, like some risk manager is just going to say Octave or Octave Allegro EBIOS is the best way of presenting this, but I disagree with them. And maybe it's good for some very mature organization which understand the risk language. But Octave Allegro is still a very high level rather than giving you a better approach. Again, depends on industry. If you go for financial industry, insurance industry, they go for more deep analysis, more subjective analysis, quantitative risk assessment, goes up to Monte Carlos and give you more comparisons of the monetary loss versus your cause of preventions or cause of mitigations, right? So I think this, in short, like it's all about the presenter who turned the game. So as you trace, it's just may have a very low appetite, acceptance, reading the contents or listening you more. It just a matter of 5-10 minutes. How do you convince them? Thank you.
My name is Serge. I just wanted to make a contribution, not mostly a question. So my point is that, I mean, the purpose of risk management is about the creation of a preservation of value, okay? This is the overall purpose of risk management. What is the purpose of a CEO? The purpose of a CEO is to create value as well, and then to maintain this value. So it's about going concern. So a good CEO is actually someone who is doing risk management, because anytime you bring something to him, he's going to balance it and make a decision. The higher the risk, the higher the premium. And a CEO is valued on that. So as long as you bring your point, not just as, I would say, a KPI, but mostly as something related to the business, and you can convey your message in terms of business rationale and not just a number, then you have a say if you're CEO. So my key point is that, I mean, the CEO is keen on taking risk, okay? This is his daily job. But at the bottom line, is it worth its time to watch what you're telling him? Or are you losing his time? So that's the main point for me. Thank you.
I just a short comment there to the last guy. It might be worth the time, but maybe the receiver don't understand the word told him or her.
You mentioned the enforcement of security measures and based on data privacy and security standards. I wanted to know your view on organization using data loss prevention tools.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, data loss prevention, it's a key actually, because at the end of the day we said it's your information. This is your the most precious asset to any company. It's either you're drawing if you're an engineering, you code if you're a developer, your perfume recipe if you're a perfume company. This is where you make your money. So making sure that this data is protected and being managed and monitored is a key to the privacy of this information or the value of this information. And it comes again from what I said in the beginning. Asset valuation and asset identification is a key to understand what is valuable. For example, there is companies, that's why I said in the beginning, technical solution doesn't resolve. There is companies, I'm not going to say name because I'm a partner with them. They give you a solution to monitor 24/7, but it gives you 150 alerts a minute. It doesn't mean nothing to you. After a while, if somebody knocking at your door, you're going to end up like ignoring it. So I want to come back again to say, what are the information that we're processing as an organization? What's the privacy piece of it? What's the financial piece of it? How can we protect that? So we can make the monitoring and incident handling around that, and the rest we can say, yes, it's important, but it's not urgent. I can lose my email for a day, nothing. But if I lose that, I lose the
is it privacy or that? So from that, you come up with a strategy, what to monitor, what constitutes an incident at the end. That is when you say, if this information of this document is being breached, that constitutes a privacy incident. Therefore, I need to have the data prevention strategy around it. I need to monitor it, who log into it, who copy it, who paste it, who deliver it. You see how good it's a holistic approach. First, you define your assets, the value of it, and then you have a strategy around that. Some companies will do what we call it enclave. As mentioned earlier, cloud is somebody else's computer, I agree, but this everybody working. We have companies say, this is my gold, I want it in an enclave. I want to monitor that. The other one I can live with. So you see, incident management, you manage the whole infrastructure and the whole network and all that, you cannot do it. You need to go to exactly define what it is, then you can apply the data prevention solutions, there's analysis on that, and active monitoring, and do incident response, what if scenarios. I hope I answered your question.
Well, just a little bit tweak on it. I'll just give you a layer-based approach. So what happens, the data loss protection. So we have, let's take example of the financial institute bank. So the endpoints on the desktops, the laptops, we have carbon copies. On top of that, we have DLP, and if you talk about network, we have NTP servers. Now, it goes up, little up. Let's go for the digital channels. So before going to digital channels, a DLP is to protect that you cannot take data out of your endpoints. That's you cannot copy the data on external storage devices. There's this the role of the DLP controls and softwares. And then you have antivirus, anti-malware, or firewall endpoints, or SIMs, SIMs endpoints. You go for the little more next level, a digital channel. Let's say you are the bank account owner, and you log into anytime on your bank accounts, that's you, MFA comes up. That you are the only one who talks about confidentiality, you address that you are the only one who can access the information, and it's to be very adequate. That the numbers represents all your debit and credits, right? And you can access that, and you can also make a transfer. And then when you do a transfer, either yourself or your family member, then it has to go for another level of authentications. And finally, it goes all the way that this information, once it's out, how do you protect the PIIs? Because a point comes when your information out of digital channels is not under your control as an organization, as an end user, then your PI, how is going to protect it? That's comes the next level of the jurisdictions or the country level rules comes in. So it's again, from the layer perspective, it's a controls, but I see DLP more as organizational controls, technical controls in the organization's levels, but interfacing to us as the endpoint, as an end customer, is more digital channels. That's DLP is not a case. There's the other controls in there. Now, but the point comes up, like, do you need to protect everything? Let's say, I'll say for my bank accounts, yes, the numbers are very crucial, must be protected. But a financial institute, that says the number of visitors coming in the branch, is it critical? I don't think so. That's not critical. So you don't need to protect that kind of, you have surveillance cameras, and somehow you have the visitor records, and you're making a record of people who visited you. Now that's not, so it's your classification data. And then when you do cross DNS communication, that's your anonymization, pseudonymization comes out. But again, there are vulnerabilities and your cryptography and anonymization controls. So it depends upon what kind of data you want to protect and what kind of controls you comes up. The DLP is a common terms that we use in organization levels, but that plays a role because it's not a case intentional, but sometimes unintentionally we share the data across the DNS, and that's the weak point comes up. I'll just give you lostments. One of our friends, he calls me, and it's actually that security has been compromised. They were using a shared email server, and somehow someone got the access that says, a kind of spam email comes to implies, hey, your salary is being increased. This, in order to get your revised salary, please download this and put this information. And he did, actually, unfortunately. That was the source that the gentleman, he put all the forwarding emails to his Russian-based servers. So the next day he was communicating. So what happens is there's some exchange of IBAN number. And the IBAN was the guy intervened, and he's just giving another IBAN number, and then everything's gone. And so what happens, it's against your stack approach where you protect. So DLP is the organization endpoints controls. Right? Now again, you need to define the data which we are going to apply DLP. It's not about deploying lots of controls. At the end of the day, you are increasing your OpEx budget, and then not directly proportional value proposition. So that's the pain point for the top management.
We might not all agree, because I have a different approach on that. I think you should have control of all your egress data. You should be able to monitor it, not necessarily stop it, but you should be aware of what left your organization last week, because that might be something that you, in retrospect, find out is important. Because you cannot classify everything, but you can have a control of what is leaving. And what we are using AI, we can see a certain number of specific data. If that is tried to be taken out in any way, different activities happens, from blocking the users to stopping entire systems. So you should have a layered approach based on the risk.
Okay, to thank you all, thanks to the distinguished panel, thanks for you for attending. We can have questions with Coffee Corner. Okay. Thanks.